Welcome back. Often, when I'm talking to students about financial decision-making in CAPSIM, many students want to make debt repayment a priority. Now, with good reason, many of us have been instilled with a belief that debt is awful, something to be avoided at all costs. Indeed, when it comes to personal finance, debt is often crippling to people. Often individuals get into debt to avoid making tough decisions or because they are unwilling to defer gratification. I personally am not a fan of debt, but when it comes to your business, the subject of debt has a bit more nuance. Debt is generally not a good thing for your business. But if you use debt wisely, and if you're comfortable using it, it may be a useful short-term tool. In most cases, bootstrapping, the process of funding startup or expansion activities, using one's own resources is the best choice. Finding creative ways to use scarce resources can really drive innovation and help you build a firm with a healthy income statement, low waste, and prudent decision-making. A cash windfall through debt often makes you stupid. You haven't built the discipline to manage large sums of money, and sometimes you are more willing to invest in unwise opportunities when cash isn't quite as scarce. Finally, debt burdens the income statement, increasing the costs of debt servicing and rendering the firm more difficult to keep profitable. For these reasons, debt is usually a bad idea in business. At times, however, debt is a useful thing to consider. We've discussed how some firms in certain industries with high seasonality use short-term debt to manage cash flow. There may be two other times when debt makes sense. If you ever use debt, if you aren't using it to either purchase inventory or capital, you're doing business wrong. Inventory can be bought to rapidly be converted into profit. Similarly, capital investments are used to improve the business. Strategic high-value capital investments might make a dramatic improvements to the bottom line and may pay for themselves quickly. You might think, for example, of an office printing center, which allows you to rapidly perform printing services that you had previously licensed out to a vendor. Perhaps a $5,000 purchase can save you $400 a month in printing costs. Using debt in this instance makes some sense. The other time when going into debt might make more sense would be in an urgent timeline situation, and this corresponds to our situation in CAPSIM. High-tech firms in a rapid growth industry find themselves in a market share land grab. Often, it is the firm that can establish themselves as the market leader early that can sustain that position in the long term. If you try to grow your firm slowly and organically in this environment, you are going to be outclassed by your competitors. We are already seeing this in CAPSIM. We are investing millions of dollars in new technology, automated machinery, and factory space. We are funding these improvements using borrowed funds using bonds or by selling equity in our firm. In this special case, moving slowly is not the right move. We won't be able to take market share nor build infrastructure quickly enough to maintain a cost advantage. We'll be relegated to an also-ran in our industry. Debt is like fire. It's a dangerous servant and a terrible master. I understand anyone who would eschew it. I personally do so. I haven't used a credit card in over a decade. But to compete in a market share land grab, you will need to raise money. If you will not use debt, this may mean issuing more stock. Either way, in a land grab situation, you need to expand, automate, and innovate. Paying down debt is probably the wrong priority. Remember, you can always retire bonds after you've completed your expansion objectives. I hope you find this message helpful, and look forward to seeing you perform well in CAPSIM.